Welcome back to the workshop. This is part 2 of the Walnut desk series. If you missed part 1 where I made the storage section of the desk with continuous grain sliding doors and inlaid handles, then there is a link in the description down below to check out part 1. I highly recommend watching part 1 because it's going to make part 2 even more enjoyable. So as I said, this is part 2 and we're going to be making the desktop section of the desk. It has hidden cable holes and the cables all run on a channel going underneath the table so they're not seen, and then they poke out a hole through the desktop. The desk also has a shallow tray underneath for pens and paper, and also a large geometric leg on the end. Like the storage area, the desktop area is also made from veneered MDF and solid walnut. The main desktop is made from veneered MDF with a walnut lipping, and the tray and the geometric leg are made from solid walnut. Now the grain on the veneered MDF was absolutely stunning. It was completely straight grain and really clean. I got this from Latham Timber. I was initially worried how strong the veneer would be and whether it'd hold up, but actually the veneer was quite thick and with a very strong finish. I'm adding some Chestnut Products acrylic lacquer on top. That's going to give a really durable, hard-wearing finish, so it will last a very long time and you won't wear through that veneer. So at the moment I'm working on the tabletops. The length of the tabletop is the exact length of a standard sheet of MDF and plywood, 2.4 meters. And then I added a walnut lipping. I wanted the lipping to be thick because I really like the look of that, and it also will add a bit of strength. I really like how I utilize my CNC for this build. For the storage area, I use the CNC to help inlay some walnut handles into the sliding doors. And for the desktops, I'm using the CNC to cut a jig and inlays for the cable holes. I used the CNC to make a flush trim template, and I just got this new Excalibur bearing guided flush trim bit, which leaves a really nice finish. The router bit is also cutting in a shear motion, so it's perfect for cutting into veneered boards, and I definitely didn't want any chip out with this tabletop. So then I used the router to cut out that recess for the inlay, which I cut on the CNC. Because I cut the template and the inlay on the CNC, that means they were perfectly sized. So as I put the glue in the recess, the inlay just slot in really smoothly. Now clamping something like this in position was quite interesting. I actually cut a load of wedges on the bandsaw and hammered them in the hole. I then sanded the inlay flush, making sure not to go too deep and sand through the veneer, and then I added a round over on the inside. Now you may have noticed I was doing the routering outside. Now I tried to do 99% of all handheld routering outside because you'll see the amount of dust that kicks up in the air. I would hate to do that in the workshop and dust just settle on all the work surfaces. If you didn't know, I am asthmatic and I take dust in the workshop really seriously. That's one reason why I really like using Festool products, because they take dust collection really seriously, especially with their sanders. However, with routers, they're pretty much notorious for having bad dust collection, whatever brand you use. So that's why I tend to do most of it outside. I would love to be uploading daily content on YouTube, but with the nature of my projects just taking weeks, sometimes months to make, it's near impossible to do that. But if you're interested in seeing what I'm getting up to in the workshop every day, then on Instagram, I've started to do daily workshop updates. I'm really excited about them. I've already got some really nice messages from followers on Instagram who are enjoying the daily updates. So if you're not following me on Instagram, then feel free to do that. A link will be in the description down below, and you'll be able to see what I'm working on every day in the workshop, as well as me giving tips and tricks, tool reviews, and all that good stuff. And if you appreciate all the free content I make and you want to support the channel for free, then I really appreciate it when you purchase something from Axminster Tools to go through my link in the description of my video. That link is an affiliate link, so whatever video you click on, just click that link and it will take you to Axminster's homepage, and whatever purchase you make, I'll get a small cut with no extra cost to you. So that's an amazing way of supporting the channel and helping me keep making this free content. So thank you in advance if you decide to go through that link. So with a shallow drawer of the desk, I decided to domino that together. I also used maple veneered MDF as a drawer bottom because that gave a nice contrast. I wanted the drawer handle to be really simplistic. So the drawer front that I was gluing on after the drawer had been glued together, I just extended down a bit, so it was wider than the thickness of the drawer. That meant you can hook your fingers behind the drawer front and open and close it really quickly. I also added my signature logo on the right corner of the drawer front. I used a dado stack to create grooves in the drawer side and the drawer runners, and then glued in a strip of wood into that groove on the drawer so that would hold the drawer in place and slide in and out. Having the drawer runners on the side of the drawer allowed the drawer to be really shallow. Instead of having a housing going underneath the drawer and the drawer supporting on the bottom, this allowed the drawer to float underneath the desktop. The desktop section is attached to the storage unit with inserts. I used M8 inserts which were thick and strong, and I also used inserts to install the leg onto the desktop. I feel inserts are a much cleaner and nicer way of attaching components together than just screws, especially if you want to take apart the desk and reassemble it in the future. Screw threads can wear out over time, whereas inserts, there is a metal thread within the workpiece, so it will never wear out. For the geometric leg, the thickness of that was 80mm, so I needed to laminate 2 boards of walnut together to get that thickness. I ripped it on the table saw, planed it on the planer thicknesser, and then glued them together. Once it dried, I ran it through the planer again to get it square. Then I used a sliding fence on my miter saw to cut 60-degree angles. I thought 60 degrees was a nice angle and really pleasing to the eye, and it created 2 equilateral triangles on the top and bottom. I doubled up the dominoes, adding one on top of the other. In total there are 4 dominoes in each joint. So even though the legs are angled, there's still a lot of strength in this leg, as there are supporting rails going in the opposite direction. The design process of this build was quite interesting. Normally I have a lot of design freedom and I can give the client lots of different options. But with this desk, the client had so many specifications, it actually made the design process a bit easier. And once I had sketched the desk with all the things they wanted, there was sort of only one way the desk could look. I did, however, give 3 iterations of the geometric leg, as this was a feature of the desk that could be really customized. The shape of the leg could be pretty much whatever you wanted, but in the end we decided to go for this 60-degree triangular shape. That really is different and I think adds a lot to the desk. Sometimes I find dominoes are really snug in the mortise and they're hard to hammer in. 2 ways of getting the dominoes to fit in really smoothly is rubbing the ends on a block plane and just taking off a couple of shavings from either side. Or you can put the dominoes in a coffee mug and put them in the microwave for about 10 to 15 seconds, and that will literally zap all the moisture out of the dominoes and shrink them ever so slightly. So then they'll go in and out of the mortise really easily. You don't need to worry about it being too loose, especially when you add glue. It will swell up in that mortise again and make the joint really tight. Gluing the leg together was quite challenging. I had to do that in a few stages. The first section that I glued on, I had to glue on a wedge-shaped block to make sure that the clamps were clamping parallel, and then once I had 2 sections glued up, I could then just join them together with some Axminster parallel jaw clamps. I then sanded the leg to 240 grit and added a heavy chamfer. I wanted a heavy chamfer because the internal corners, if the chamfer was small, you'd still see a sharp point, but when you have a heavy chamfer, it makes those corners look a lot more rounded. To finish the desk, I used Chestnut Products acrylic lacquer. This was a gloss lacquer, but you can make it into a matte finish by rubbing it down after with a very fine grit or wire wool. I used my Fuji spray system to get really even coverage, and it made applying finish on this large piece really quick. So to deliver this piece, we were really careful. We added bubble wrap around every single component, each shelf, each sliding door, each cabinet, every leg, with about 5 layers of bubble wrap. It's much better spending time and money on extra packaging than it is spending extra time fixing a bit that's damaged. You may notice those holes at the back of the cabinets. I made those cutouts with magnetic doors. They were positioned right in front of the plug socket. So when the client wanted to feed a wire down and plug something in, he had really good access to the plug socket. So both storage units are joined together with hex bolts and hex nuts, and the top of the storage unit is attached on with threaded inserts. Then I brought the desk section in, and that is attached to the storage unit, again with inserts. A long bolt gets passed through the storage unit into a rail attached to the desk. Then I installed the sliding doors. I made these in a way so when the sliding doors are closed, there is a nice curve from the center of the storage unit curving outwards. So that is the Walnut desk complete. It is definitely my largest project to date. It was a big challenge making it on my own in this size of a workshop, but we got there in the end. I'm really happy with how it turned out and the client loves it, which is fantastic. So if you haven't checked out part 1, make sure you do that. A link to that video will be in the description down below. And if you appreciate the free content I make, then whenever you buy a tool or anything on Axman's website, I really appreciate it if you go through my link in the description of all my videos. It's an affiliate link, so whatever purchase you make, I'll get a small cut with no extra cost to you. So it's a great way of supporting the channel. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, subscribe, like, comment down below. I will reply to all your comments. I love to hear what you think about this desk. And yeah, thank you for sticking to the end of the video, and I'll see you very soon for the next one.